Strategy Bootcamp Africa and explore how African businesses can balance the immediate financial pressures of growth with the long-term investment in ESG strategies to ensure sustainable success. And climate change expert Boitumelo Marumo and ESG advisor and trainer Oarabile Lefadolo joins this conversation. A very good afternoon and welcome to In Context, ladies.
Thank you so much and good afternoon to you too.
All right. Now, Oarabile, with Botswana taking steps to develop its first national ESG strategy, what does this say or signal about the country's commitment to sustainable development? And maybe right on that point, just how can businesses align their operations, to benefit from this shift?
I would like to say hello to Botswana, first of all. We have to consider that Botswana is a signatory to the UN policies and stuff like that. So in wanting to have a national ESG strategy, it's moving in the right direction in terms of it positioning it better with regards to the international market. So when we bring it a little bit home, in terms of businesses, we've realized that businesses, they face a lot of challenges when it comes to the concept of ESG, mainly being a lack of information, the awareness, capacity is not really there. People don't really understand what ESG is and just the concept of ESG in general. So that's mainly what is faced with. That's what's facing the businesses right now.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
So, and then it comes again with the infrastructure gap. We don't have much infrastructure, unreliable energy, stuff like that. So that becomes limiting. So if you don't know how to be resilient in the current state, you're going to suffer in the long run.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. Boitumelo.
Yeah, and maybe just to add on to that, she's already talked about how we're signatories to some of the UN policies and structures. That will also maybe include the Paris Agreement and maybe the SDGs themselves. And this commitment is a further stamp onto what we have already said in some of our policies, like the nationally determined contributions, where our NDCs, where we are trying to reduce our emissions. So it's a further sort of like commitment that we are indeed going to be reducing emissions and looking into that. But as for businesses and how they can take advantage of this, I would say the first thing, Hella, would be to position themselves in a space where once maybe some tax advantages come, or some of the policies and structures that are going to come out of this, is that ready to take advantage of that?
Right.
Will it be maybe advantages of being sustainable? And then maybe they can also start aligning themselves with things like circular economy, etc., where it's not just a performative gesture, if I may say that, but they are indeed looking at their waste management, and then maybe they are looking at their water usage, etc. As we know in Botswana, we're already under a lot of water stress. So the things that we have to do and the structures that we have to put in place, they have to work if we are in excess or if we are in dire need, and that's the major problem that we face.
Right. Oarabile, a bit earlier there, you did mention something on resilience, right? Businesses being able to be resilient throughout. Of recent, we have been faced with a lot of climatic changes, right? Floods, droughts, fires, and the likes, right? Now, how can an effective ESG approach support resilience and adaptation in such, a rapidly changing climate?
The main reason why, the first thing, I should say, is we should have a strategy which speaks to what we should do in case of emergencies, in case of such a changing environment. If you have a strategy, the initial step would be to finding ESG risks which your business is prone to be affected by. So if you have that initial step, in the long run, you'd be able to know how you can counter the impact of the changing climate. Yes.
Yeah, maybe just to also clarify further, with the ESG, as you said in the beginning, it's about the environment, the social, and the governance.
Right.
So maybe with the environmental, Oarabile has talked about risk. So this is where maybe we can look into things like disaster risk reduction and response. This is where now we can see how to involve the community. The segment just before this one was talking about how the community came together. Now that would be the social, the people. How the community came together, they were helping those who were displaced or homeless because of the floods. And then they were also talking about how they should have drainage systems. So those are some of the disaster risk, preparation and response. And maybe other things could be early warning systems and communicating in time that a disaster might happen. I know that we can't be 100% foolproof from being affected by disasters.
And this is something that we did speak on, I think, about 2 years ago?
Yes. Yeah, we can't be totally foolproof, but we can at least try to have measures in place. And then the governance would be going back to what Oarabile said right in the beginning with the policies and structures. Yeah.
Right. Now, how can African companies measure and report on ESG performance in a way that aligns with international standards while considering, local realities?
Of course. So what I love about where we are right now in Botswana when it comes to ESG is that it's an emerging market. So there's a lot of opportunity for all the experts that we have in the country to put their heads together and come up with structures which would work for our context. There's a lady called Patokilisite who's a climate change activist. And one thing that she keeps saying is that although ESG now is this huge thing globally, but in Botswana, we are ESG. We are the type of people who, if it's a business or a structure, we hold it in a way that we are very aware of how it's affecting people. We are looking at the human rights, the inequalities, the equal opportunity, and then with the governance, are we looking at the laws? How are they affecting other people? Who are they benefiting? How can they benefit everybody? And then, of course, with the environment, that we are not depleting the few resources that we have, and we are making sure that they'll be there for future generations. So I think basically when it comes to Botswana, the opportunity is that we have an opportunity to learn both from our culture and traditions and also from what's already in place globally. And then those learnings, they can be spread through either the NGO route, they can be spread also through the private sector route. For example, at Sustainability Consulting, where we do these ESG advisory, we have courses, we have training programs, etc. We even have free, let's say, a career fair for people who want to venture in this space. So that's the capacity building and learning part of it. And then also the implementation part, we have to wait and see what the government, what type of paper are they going to come up with? How can we contribute to that paper? Would be very interesting to be able to sort of is that the correct word? Because I see they're doing it with the budget speech. You can, they did it with the constitution. That's what I love about Botswana. You can contribute to these things which look so huge and affect everybody in the country. And also with the implementing and the reporting, I think transparency and just being open and honest about what is happening so that you can be able to know what to change, what to fix, and where to improve moving forward.
Right. Now, Boitumelo, let's give a little bit more focus on the governance part, right? What role do governments and regulatory bodies in Africa, play in shaping the ESG landscape?
I think, first of all, we have to be very I don't want to say careful, but it has to be a true picture of ESG. I know that also myself as a climate activist first, I would speak to the E of the ESG, but it's more holistic. We shouldn't forget, like you said, the governance and the social part of it. So it's not climate change, it's not only climate action, but it's also looks into sustainable development. It also looks into even finance, even sustainable finance. What type of investors are we bringing into the country? Are they people who are going to be doing things which are going to be harmful for us in the long run?
Right.
Or are they people who are coming here not only to fund sustainable development? Would it be renewable energy sector? Would it be sustainable jobs? Would it be in terms of improving our infrastructure? Or so what type of investment are they bringing? So I think maybe those are some of the things that our governments and countries in Africa should be looking at. That is it going to be harmful? Your interpretation, is it going to be harmful or is it going to be useful for the people? But what I love about ESG the most is that our governments should be very they should really focus also on the S part of it, because it looks into the human rights, like I said, it looks into the equal opportunity, like I said. And then with the policies, we shouldn't just draw up beautiful policies, but we should make room for the monitoring and the evaluation and the reporting of those policies. But most of all, let's not copy and paste what is already happening in other countries. At Sustainabiz, we are members of the UN Global Compact, which are the people who coined the word ESG in the first place. It's been more than a decade. So we can't do what people are doing at year 10 when we're at year 0, because we don't have the strategy.
Right. Tailor make it
to fit our reality.
Our reality out. Yeah. Now, Oarabile, just access to knowledge, and best practices is often cited as a barrier when we talk of ESG, right? Or ESG integration. Right. Now, what are some of the most effective ways that knowledge can be passed on from one, or businesses can share with each other the practices that they, use, and strategies that they use that work for them with other businesses, or share them with society as a whole?
That's where the importance of reporting comes in, because for you to know something, you have to have information that's there. Either you can read on your own, you can research on your own to find such things out. But there's also training which is available, where companies can capacitate their employees, and in terms of businesses, they can benchmark off of each other, see how other people are implementing ESG strategies, or rather just embedding their ESG strategies into their operational strategies. So that's one way in which we can try to curb this issue in relation to lack of knowledge.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And just quickly, we're running out of time, but Boitumelo, how can what are some of the most impactful ESG initiatives for African businesses, to focus on in the short term, right? And how can these efforts, contribute in the long run?
Yeah, there's something that this one of these ladies that I follow in LinkedIn, and sometimes she says that we try to look at the biggest thing, but let's start small with the paper that we use, with the paper that we print. And I know that I'm also guilty of that. How much paper do you print in the office building in a day, in a month, in a week? But we're saying that we are progressing with the times. We now have these little gadgets and the bigger ones. Are we really utilizing the technology? So I would say, one, let's try to innovate and actually utilize and use this innovation. So the second thing that I would say is this innovation also comes with emissions sometimes. There's a conversation that we had offline of AI and how it causes emissions. And I said it's complicated in the fact that AI uses a lot of data. It processes and stores a lot of data, which is stored on the cloud. So we have to be very careful about the type of storage that is, how is it affecting the energy that we use to access that storage. So so maybe I would say responsible use of technology as well, and try to see how we can lessen some of the negative impacts that we have. The other thing that I would would say is when it comes to waste. People sometimes talk about waste in a way that I want to use my plastic straw. Why am I using this a paper straw? It's not nice, but at the end of the day, this waste, it's going to a dump site. The dump sites are going to be huge. They're going to be filling up, and biodiversity, and it's just not, it's also causes emissions. And in a bigger scheme of things, it goes back to the ocean, and we know that the ocean controls everything. When it comes to other things that businesses can do, it would be things like employee welfare. The S in ESG it goes to things like employee welfare. Are you training the people properly? Are they growing in your organization? And then the governance part of things will be the structures that you have in place, either for your company or how it affects other things outside your company. It could be a company either sustainable products and services, or maybe they are not so sustainable, but how are they affecting the people and the environments around you? So I think what I can say maybe in closing is that we should really look into collaboration. I know that ESG, like I said, it's new in Botswana. We need to go train where we need to go training, but then also we need to recognize the people who are already doing good things. At the ESG Strategy Bootcamp, for example, last year we had Mem Pomasate from Botswana, who gave a really beautiful presentation on their ESG journey there. So those are the people. Oarabile talked about case studies and benchmarking. Those are the people we can benchmark and read their case studies from. So the education never stops, and then with the recognition of these people, it's through forums like this one and the work that you're doing here in BTV. And then it can also be through awards. For example, we have the ESG Sustainability and Impacts Awards coming, when people see that this is the route that the world is going, and then other companies may also follow that route. And civil society organizations, they're always a step ahead of everybody.
Sure. All right, that is all the time that we did have. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, that was climate change expert Ms. Boitumelo Marumo and ESG advisor and trainer Ms. Oarabile Lefadolo on the topic of ESG, how the landscape is looking like for us here in Botswana. And of course, one step at a time. We'll get there. Stay tuned for the news at the top of the hour.
This year's budget demands that we rethink our priorities, demands that we reimagine possibilities, requires